Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Spiritual Vacancy, a podcast where we are here to fill your spiritual void. And we are so excited to have our guest here today because this is new for both of us. And I'm Mona Lee. I am an energy healer and owner of Beautiful Mind in South Carolina. And I am with my dear partner here.
I'm Brooke Ann. I'm a psychic medium and a Reiki practitioner. And who do we have the pleasure of talking with today? I'm so excited about this interview. Mona?
So yes, we have Greyson Green on the line with us. And when we both first heard that we get to talk to a medical medium, we were both going, oh my goodness, this is awesome, because how in the world did all this start? How does he know all these questions that I can't wait to ask Greyson about? So Greyson, welcome, welcome, welcome to our podcast. And thank you so much for joining us today. We are really excited to have you. And that's the biggest thing, is how in the world did you get your spiritual journey started?
Yeah.
Medical medium, what?
Yeah.
Right? I know. Thank you so much for the introduction, Brooke and Mona. I really appreciate you guys and for having me on here today. And yeah, that's honestly such a really interesting question. I really kind of fell into the whole sort of thing very young, so to speak. I was about 13 years old, and much like I think the connection between me and my grandmother Joyce Rollins probably won't be lost on your viewers, I'm assuming. But as if you have heard of her story, she is a psychic medium as well, my grandmother, and she was kind of the inspiration for me to kind of jump headfirst in this journey for me as a young teenager. And at that time, I just lost my which was my grandma's wife, and she was just such a huge instrumental role in having that profound effect on me, because I wanted to kind of reconnect with her again. It was just like I felt like I lost everything just way too quickly at that point in my life. She died of ovarian cancer, and she fought really hard to be with me and be with my grandma for as long as she could. And I really appreciate her for putting that on. And a part of me wanted to still have that connection with her from the other side. So I asked my grandma one day. I heard that she was going to the spiritual development circle, as you've heard of being on Meetup and whatnot. And the spiritual leader there has a policy that only people that were above the age of 18 could come in. But during that day, she just so happened to feel generous enough to allow me to sit in on just a little fun kind of experimental like mediumship reading thing called sand reading. So we just kind of have a person paint a line in the sand, and then we just read whatever has been put inside of the sand, and we just use our intuition to essentially give a reading based on that. And the thing that happened the most out of that sand reading was she started asking me a lot of questions about the medical side of her problems. I think she kind of innately understood that the readings that I was kind of giving to her, the Reverend Maria, the lecturer, she had me check out her own medical intuitive side of things and see what problems she had with her. And during this reading, I found out that she had double cataracts in both eyes that were untreated and that she wasn't getting any treatment for. And she basically confirmed this with me. She validated everything. And from this, she basically had everyone in the circle come to their attention that I was a naturally gifted medical intuitive, and proceeded to put me on the spot and make me read every single person in
Oh
the
my God.
room.
Wow.
And
That's a
I found out
lot.
there was one lady, and I got them all right. One lady had hearing issues. One guy, I think I said before that I think there was her husband or boyfriend at the time, David. He had two double knee replacements in his knees, and he had an inability to walk. So she would just point at someone across the room and ask, like, what's wrong with them?
Wow.
What's wrong with them? And every time they'd validate, like, yep, those issues are correct. I feel that. And just like that, pretty much everything else was the rest was history. It was kind of from there. It was almost like, a sense of fulfillment and purpose was finally coming true in actualization in my life, kind of in in that short
Wow,
span of time.
wow.
Uh,
I feel like everything just made sense all at once, and it was just such a profoundly moving experience for me. And I just kept going to that spiritual development circle up until I started going to college at FSW, go Bucks. And then COVID happened, we stopped doing in person, and then we started doing like online spiritual circles developments. And then around this time, I started going to FAU full time, and then I kind of just ceased everything at that point. I just really was focusing on my studies, and well, 4 years later, I've kind of come back to it, and I'm still, have realized how much I really have still to learn. And I thought I tackled a lot, but it feels like that time away allowed me to take a perspective on that. And I'm back and going to these new spiritual shops. We have two shops that we're going to in Fort Myers and Cape Coral that we really are, putting ourselves out there and getting the help that people really need, especially on the medical side of things. So it's
well,
really
not
awesome.
only are you like the youngest medium I have ever met, and you even starting this journey at 13 years old, and then working on your gifts and honing them in, but you're the only medical medium I have ever met. And so, like, that's fascinating in itself. But then prior to that first, circle, the development circle that you went to, did you already kind of have, instances where you felt spirit or you knew certain things, but you weren't really sure what was going on? Or was it more at that point of your age of 13, just curiosity, and then it just came naturally because at 13, I'm assuming you didn't have a lot of the fears we have as an adult of being
Right.
wrong or expectations or like our other peers staring at us with what we're gonna say.
You're pretty
So
much
I'd
right
love to
about
hear
that.
about
Yeah,
that.
I've always just kind of felt like I was just didn't. It was more of just like I didn't really feel like I had a group to fit into, more or less. I just kind of felt like I didn't have like a real sense of purpose because it felt like there was my peers amongst me were like really into sports, or they were really into the academics, really into music and stuff like that. And there was kind of like things that like little bits of pieces of that I enjoyed, but it wasn't to that extent where I felt like it was like fulfilling a life purpose for me. I didn't find that it was like giving my that satisfaction that my ego kind of needed in order for me to feel good about myself and have that self-esteem. So I felt like for a long period of time, it was kind of just this idea in the back of my head that there was something bigger that I should be doing, and I just couldn't figure out kind of what it was, if that makes sense. And I guess at that age, that you kind of have a naive aspect of the world, and you're not really sure what's really going on as an adult, and kind of what the aspect of this sort of realm of spirituality is. And I think that whole concept to me was kind of very foreign. And I think that's where I wanted that curiosity aspect of it, because I've kind of dipped my toes in everything else up until that point, and it didn't really give me that same like kind of ego investment where it was felt like I was doing a good sense of purpose, and I had that giving people happiness and giving people the type of messages they need to hear. And this was, I think, a way that I could facilitate that. And honestly, after I realized that this was something I could do, I really felt like my life just kind of started there. Almost, it didn't even start like when I was born. It kind of started when I realized the gifts that I had, in all honesty.
Yeah,
That
and they
is,
just threw you in there too to read the whole class. Oh my word.
Oh man,
That's a lot of
no
work.
idea. I was so nervous as soon as she said that. Like, I had no idea what was going on. That was the
A
crazy
lot.
part. I think that was kind of just the best part about it, just kind of throwing me to the swamp, just letting the crocodiles eat me alive and see what happens.
that's
If I
a
sink or
great
float. I
That's
floated.
great. That is great, Grayson. It's just like learning how to swim for the very first time. And that was the old days where kids would get thrown into the water and they would have to paddle or drown, you know?
Pretty
And
much.
it sounds like you had gone into that situation in the psychic world and at such a young age too. And then to discover your purpose at such a young age and to really know that and to feel that and to go from one person to another and nailing it too on top of that. So I am so, so curious about how like when in that process, how in the world do you feel sensations in your body? Or can I
Yes.
ask you that question? Because I am
Absolutely.
just
Yeah,
dying to
I do.
know.
Yeah, so the sensations that I do feel, I also see different colors, and this is one of kind of the interesting thing I think about a medical intuition is because there's different like the auric field has different kind of I think depending on how like heightened our spiritual beings are, we have different colors that we kind of depend on the auric field, ranging from white to red to yellow to blues to purples, maybe a little bit of greens in between, but there's lots of these different energies that I feel much the same way that we feel whenever we try to determine the the age of your spiritual being. I feel in the bodies, whereas red energy that to me symbolizes inflammation, and if it's black energy, it to me symbolizes something that's very chronic, that's been there for years on end. And green energy is something that is like congestion, that's like something that's ruminating in a particular area that's going to eventually grow into something else. It has like a start of something. So these different types of sensations and feelings that I kind of get are more or less like these kind of code words, kind of so to speak. They're kind of like I don't know if you've ever been on like to the beach, and they have these like kind of flags they put up at the beach to symbolize the weather of that day or something like that. These are kind of like these different flags that are different colors that show me exactly what I should be looking for and what should I tell this person, and validate with them if what I see is correct and if they have anything experienced. And then from there, I kind of just go back in there and I analyze, exactly if it's something that's muscular, if it's something that's, in your organs, or something that's in your bones. I try to find out, exactly from based on what information I get, on yes or no validation terms, basically what I feel innately in myself. And sometimes, especially if it's like a car accident or something like that, especially if it's something that's like very much physical trauma, or something that's like, broken bones or shattered like wrists or something like that. So that's something I can definitely like feel, and I can like definitely internalize that a lot more. But things that are muscular, things that are like intrinsic to your organs, or things that are or like diseases or something, I really have to use those colors sequences for me to kind of, I think, understand exactly what it is. There's, I think, two sides to it most of the time. But especially the pain symptoms of it are very much kind of just like a quick rapid succession. It kind of just feels like, I always like to use the term like a hot, like 1,000-degree knife videos. I don't know if you ever see those old ASMR videos on YouTube where they would cut like random objects with glowing red hot knives. And it kind of just feels like some of the times it's like I get this glowing red hot knife just kind of stabbing me in a particular area
Oh,
where I feel there's
wow.
an affected person that has an injury in this area. And they most often times than not will validate with me that they do have something there. And from there I can, tell them that, hey, there's an optometrist, or a dialysis, or someone that can basically give you anything that happens, if it's something that's in your thyroid, or if it's something that's in your lungs, this fluid buildup or something like that. There's lots of different kind of, I think, things I've seen over periods of time, which I think warrant a lot of different responses, so to speak. So
Yeah.
it's definitely very much a case by case basis, interestingly enough. And I think it's kind of the toolbox that I have at my disposal that allows me to tackle everything like that, which
So
is
that's
good for me, I
fascinating.
think.
So
It
like when you
is.
meet with your client, you can already see like the color, or you feel the colors, or you see the colors of
Yes,
like
I
the
see the
red,
colors.
black, the
Pretty
green,
Yeah,
yellow.
pretty much. Yeah, I
And
sense it like based on, it's kind of just like a glowing, like kind of just like a radiation kind of like spot. Like it feels like it just feels irritated. Like I feel like I notice that person is irritated by this particular thing, and it's just like I can tell that this bothers you because it's bothering me right now, sort of thing. So I kind of let them know about it. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, I don't want you to feel that pain because it hurts so bad, my lower back, my hips, no. Like whatever.
oh
Like, they
Oh,
kind of just feel like really upset that I have to also feel that same sort of symptoms that they have to feel through, but it's kind of part of the process, in order for that's actually accurate, so the
yeah,
person
yeah.
gets that information that they really want to, well, pay me to actually get.
yeah. So do
Wow.
you feel,
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just fascinated. I feel
Me
like
too.
my jaw is on the floor the entire time that you're sharing these things. I'm just fascinated by this. It's amazing. How in the world do you clear after the day, or after being with people and after doing readings with them, when you're feeling these in your body? How do you, I know that you know that it's not yours, that it's theirs, and to tap
Correct.
in to
You're
assist.
right. It's
How,
something.
who are your guides? They're amazing.
They are.
There's
They
so
definitely
blessed to have you on
communicate.
this earth and to be connected to these guides. Oh my goodness.
You're right. My guides definitely do a lot of the heavy lifting for me, especially when it comes to these types of readings and stuff like that. I don't think I could be able to go home with a clear state of mind, especially after hearing some of the things that you hear, and that, especially at some of the things that I think I've dealt with. I'm looking back on it, being that age and having to, come to terms with certain things it's. People lose other people, and some people will lose people very young, and that's honestly very depressing to hear. And being a kid and having to read people whose kids were also lost at the same age that I am at while I'm currently alive is just something that I don't think I really ever, get that feeling that I can shake out. So I feel like that, my guides kind of understand that it's very much a double-edged sword for me. If I'm going out and trying to help these people, that's something I can't take home with myself. I can't allow that to overtake my life because I do understand that this is just a part of the human experience, but a part of me just wishes that it didn't have to be this way. And I hope that all mediums do indeed feel this way. And as a result of that, I think that's my motivator to keep doing this work is so that, there's people out there that never actually get the chance to speak with loved ones that have passed away. And I feel like it might be sad to hear their stories from my perspective and hear what's happened to them. But after seeing the people's faces and feeling the sensation of relief that they got to speak to somebody on the other side that they didn't think they would ever hear from in the living ever again is just a feeling I don't think I could ever replace with in any other occupation. And I feel like that's kind of what, despite it all, I feel like that's really what just keeps me going. I just want to, continue giving that love and compassion that, people on the other side, they still feel that way. They still feel love for the people that are in the living, but they don't always feel it. And I think those types of people need to hear that. Absolutely 100%. And if I'm here to offer that service, I feel like I should do as much as I can to take care of myself so other people can have that experience the same way that I was able to.
Yeah, definitely. Do people, when they book with you, do they come knowing what's wrong with them, or is it a little bit of both? Are they coming to you to say, hey, what do you feel, or what do you
There's
think
some
is coming up, or how does that work?
There's some interesting, so sometimes it does depend. Like you, Brooke, I do Reiki as well. So I do some like a little bit of some of that medical intuition side with the Reiki. So some people that actually do come to me with the problems, there's this one lady who has a broken leg and she has a scooter, unfortunately, for I think a couple of months until she gets it completely healed. But I've been doing Reiki to mitigate the pain symptoms. And she even had her doctor look at her leg and she says, wow, this is doing a lot better than we anticipated. And then she even mentioned that I was doing Reiki, and I was like, could be. The fact that she even got a doctor to admit that it could be Reiki that helped her is something else, in my opinion. So yeah, in addition to that, I also just there's a story of a lady who quite literally said I saved her husband's life one time when she came to me with her husband in a joint reading, and I read her husband with a medical intuitive message that came that with me saying to the extent that he needs to get a colonoscopy done, and that it feels like there's polyps growing somewhere, and it feels like that this could be something that happens in the future that I'm not sure if this is something that should be bad, but I'm obviously not a doctor that's, certified to give you this sort of advice. So I definitely told him to get it checked out. And when the most amazing thing that happened is they turned out to be precancerous polyps in his colon that they ended up removing. And after that, he never had to worry about having any cancerous symptoms ever again because they started treating it that early on before it actually started developing to stage 1. So he basically had his life saved. Essentially, there was something that a scan would have not picked up on, but for a medical intuitive, that's something that I can actually see and give recommendations for those sort of people. And it quite literally, as that woman would have said, it saved the husband's life. So I think for me to be able to I think channeling the energy, it's a two-way street that they have to really trust me in order to see another person with that. And I feel like the people that come in without knowing anything that's wrong with them, I feel like they have enough confidence to take my word for it, is what I would hope. And like these sorts of people, because it is something that I genuinely do feel and I genuinely do sense, and I urge all my clients, no matter what I sense, to definitely see a second opinion, regardless of if it's something I feel like is cancerous or not cancerous. I always want them to at least be sure that they're okay. So that's kind of where I really drive home that point of, if it's something you're aware of, then great, I can do healing, I can help. If not, then I can at least give someone the guidance to find someone who will know what's wrong. And then in that regard, they will be able to have a successful life afterwards.
Yeah,
And
that's
just
awesome.
be end it short.
Yeah. Do you ever like walk around like when you're out like shopping or anything and all of a sudden like your hip hurts or like you're like, oh, I can't breathe or something hurts on my body and you're like picking up somebody else's stuff like randomly while you're out in
Yeah.
public, and how do you
Something.
navigate that and how do you handle that?
It's funny that you mentioned that. It is true. Some of the times I will kind of sense like people's, I don't know. It feels more like a kind of generalized anxiety. It's like something's gonna happen, but it feels like I'm kind of just channeling from other people like around me. It feels like, I really kind of have to keep my aura like really close to myself because I feel like I'm much after I open myself up to mediumship, I feel like I'm more of a sponge than for energy more than anything because of the work that I'm doing. And because of that, it feels like I absorb more of the energy around me because I sometimes I just open the floodgates, just let all the energy pour into me especially when I'm doing my spiritual work, because I know that the energy I'm in the crystal shop is surrounded by crystals, it's pure energy. The energy that I'm getting is great. And sometimes, if I'm not closing my sponge gate, I'm just going to keep absorbing all the negativity that other people have. And that's where I sometimes just get like, I get anxiety. I get very much like kind of just downtrodden. I feel like I have less energy. And most of the time it's kind of just like, I feel mentally weighed down, if that makes sense. Most of the time I feel very like upbeat. I can kind of do my daily task without anything like that. But especially if it's like me at in a normal workplace environment and there's like a boss that's kind of dragging me down, or there's a coworker that's just in a particularly sour mood, like that will affect me. I will admit it. And that's requires me to definitely take a step back. And I like to do like a box breathing method, which is 4 sets of 4 4 4. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's the 4 seconds of breathing in, holding in, and breathing out for 4 seconds. So I like to just give myself just, bathroom, just toilet, it might not smell good, but at least it's somewhere private where I can just kind of, collect myself a little bit and just,
Yes.
bring myself back to my grounded self again, where I'm not nearly as, relying on the energy of other people. Because, I feel sometimes I like, feeding off the positive energy of other people. Sometimes they're kind of sucking it out of us. They like to suck the energy away from us sometimes. And I really try to be careful of those sorts of people too. So I am aware that I'm just very vulnerable to those sorts of things too, especially with the attunements and the Reiki attunements that I have, and the ability that I have to read other people's auras and stuff like that too, which is kind of, I get flustered sometimes in those
Yeah.
situations. It just kind of
Yes.
get stressed out. But you're right.
Wow, I
It
just
is
want to
really.
wrap you in a protective bubble. I want to wrap you in a protective bubble and keep you safe. With all that you feel, I'm serious. With all that you feel, and maybe it's a mama bear coming out of me, but it's like with all that you feel and all that you go through and everything that you're around, where do you work on a daily basis? Are you in like a corporate type of setting, or I guess a place at the normal, or are you a place? Can we put you in a hospital? Because I mean, here's
Oh,
the thought.
I
I
wish.
want to
Yeah.
no, no, no. I'm seriously to share, to help, to assist.
right,
Here's what I mean by that. In Reiki, they actually have about 900 hospitals
right,
in our
right.
nation that accepts Reiki as healing. What if we could put you into one of those big hospitals and you can help assist the doctors on the other side of the
There we
wall?
go.
I'm
Free
serious about
housing, right? I wouldn't have to pay
Right?
for
What if this can
rent.
happen? I'm serious, Grace. And what if this can happen where you are put in the perfect situation where you are just simply doing your gift,
Yeah, you
and
can
then
count on me,
assisting and then
absolutely.
doing the Reiki on people, because the Reiki is written off on insurances now.
Really? What?
Yes.
That's
Check it out,
incredible.
please.
Wow.
Check it out.
Times have changed.
900 hospitals in the United States. You can work in the hospitals and have that as something. But where are you on a daily basis? Where are you now? Where do, I mean,
So
how do you stay away from all these people, all these things that you might be feeling?
you're right. So about a year ago, I had an internship out of my FAU at a college that I go to. So I wanted to do some videography work. I really had a passion with documentary filmmaking, and I just kind of wanted to go about and just share, I guess, lives and journeys and different aspects of different people. So I got an internship at the Urban Farming Institute in Oakland Park, Florida, and I started working there as just writing newsletters, basically, on a weekly basis. And I would go in there also daily to kind of record content. We had like a YouTube channel that we would just upload kind of advice on people who wanted to learn how to farm in an urban environment, who didn't have a lot of plots of land. It mostly just like people who have small apartment patios or something like that. They just wanted to, have a small garden to make their own food in, so they didn't have to spend as much of their groceries. It's just these kind of free advertisements, kind of to advertise the farm and advertise what we do, and show that we can create a small scale, replicate it on a small scale what we are advertising to the people online. And I really kind of met a lot of really great people there, a lot of people who were in the television industry for a long period of time. Who there's my boss who recently did pass away, bless his heart, but he after when he did pass away, he was really a huge mentor on me and giving that back to the community. He was in a parade too at that point in time, like right before he passed away, where he was given a trophy and commendations from the mayor of the city for the amount of public service that he gave back to everybody there. And that act of public service and that act of kindness was kind of a place of humility for me. I felt like I was really, I could be humble and be myself there, and I didn't need to, work for the corporate greed of America or something crazy like that. I wasn't filling anybody else, the rich CEO's pockets with anything. My boss was really like a down to earth, like honest man who just wanted to help a community of people who was underserved. And to me, that was a really great place for me to work. And now he's passed away, I've kind of just been in between jobs. I've been writing resumes now, and I've been working on freelance for videography and stuff like that too, just kind of here and there. But since then, I've just been, just wanting to use those talents that I grew at my previous work environment to at least help people in that capacity as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been, working on in my day-to-day regime, so to speak.
Yeah. And luckily you have your grandma to support you in all the
Absolutely.
ways with your gifts, but do you have peers? Like, do you have friends that understand what you're going through, or is it kind of more lonely at your age where they
There's
don't
some
understand?
there's some people in my friend group who I think to some extent they aren't deeply seated as much as I am into it, but they understand to some capacity the ideas that there is an afterlife and that there are people who can communicate with them from the other side. Like I feel like they have gifts, but they don't really like listen to it, so to speak. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's
Yes.
kind of just like they have latent ability that I just know that they could just, if they push themselves to even learn something about it, I feel like they would do it. But it just, to me, I don't know if they would be receptive to it. I think that's kind of the issue. That there are people I do realize out there that I can just kind of feel the same way. It's just like I feel other people, like I can sense that there's, people of higher spiritual being and a higher sense of purpose. I can just kind of feel those people out in a way. I think they just have a better judgment of character than other people in the world. And I feel myself gravitating towards those people. And I feel like if they were to, I think, decide to come over to the side of work, I feel like they would do very successful things in that regard. And I think it's just a matter of having an open mind and just allowing yourself to accept that hey, yeah, this might be a little bit weird at first, and it might not be something that everybody does, and it's definitely weird, but there's people that gain a lot from these experiences, and it's not just the people that you also like are helping. You are helping yourself by helping these people. You learn about yourself through the process of growing in order to give people what they need in order to help move on from the loved ones that they passed away, or having the medical intuitive side where they feel sick and they have these ailments that they don't have quite an awareness about. It's more than that, because you see the genuine effects that does have on people over time. And having done this for so many years and having people, consistent clients that come back to me and tell me about how much they've changed as a result of the readings they've had with me is what really keeps me, that drive, that forwardness, that ability to, just be a cohesive person for somebody else. I don't have to live for my own being. I can help other people and make sure that they're doing well as well as I am. And sharing that with people is what really motivates me the most. And I hope that other people, especially like my friends and the peers that are associated with these kinds of perspectives, I wish they could definitely see into that too. And I think they will at some point. I think there's just an age. I think they need to have that maturity, the same way that I had to have that maturity over the years, where I just saw people being changed, through the services that I've done unto others. And I think as soon as they realize the same years of experience that I've had, it will also be clear to them.
Yes. And age is just a number, and your soul has been doing this for a very long time. And when you came into this earth, isn't it amazing how all these guides are with you to do exactly what you were meant to do on this earth? And I am so grateful that you are on this planet, and hopefully you're just really influencing other people that, especially are your peers that have, because like attracts like, right? And then when you're hanging out with certain people and their vibes of whether it's somebody that you want to be with or not be with or be around, and because you're a sensitive soul. But having that advice, what's a piece of advice that you would share with these young people who are here and they're in their teens and their early 20s, and they know something is different. They feel and see more than what most people are seeing and feeling. So what's some advice that you would share to assist people to really just like, come on, let's do what we're meant to do on this earth. Let's do it. Why we're here. Why are we alive? Why are we here? Here's our gift. How do we do it?
Hmm. I think you have to be okay with making mistakes. Be okay with being wrong some of the time. You have to be okay with messing up. And I think a lot of because my generation are just okay with like they think if they don't do it exactly the way it's meant to be and that they mess it up once, it's the whole world's gonna end. But it's okay to make mistakes like that. It's okay that things don't go your way the first time around. There's always another chance for you to try again in the future. And if you think that the whole world is crumbling apart over just one tiny thing, it's not. It probably just wasn't meant to be if that's any indicator of how bad it probably would have been if you were a part of that group or a part of that idea or part of that school or that job and if it's falling down apart around you and you think it's a bad thing it probably is more or less a good thing because you'll see in the future once you finally realize everything has a way of fitting in like puzzles and the pieces like obviously you don't see the whole picture of the puzzle yet until all your pieces are kind of placed in the right order. And you can kind of see a little bit of what's supposed to happen, but you don't know the whole thing, right? So I think that as long as you just keep making mistakes, the same way like you got to put wrong pieces in the puzzle in order for the right piece to finally fit in. I think for young people, it's kind of hard for them to, I think, internalize that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be to disappoint other people and it's your own expectations that are realistically the ultimatum that makes you a human being. It's not the expectations of your boss or your parents or your friends or anybody else that you think that has authority over you. I think it's predominantly yourself. You are that authority. So I think that's what people need to listen to is themselves and be okay with the mistakes they make in their lives.
That is excellent advice. And I know I enjoyed hearing that. I needed to hear that too. So I thank you for sharing that because I think we are the hardest on ourselves. And I just want to say, I am so proud of you because you living your soul's purpose and being brave enough to embrace it and understand that we make mistakes and it's everything's a learning curve and the things that you're going through. I mean, I am just in awe of you doing what you do because a lot of people your age are so confused, scared, don't have the trust and spirit to do what you do, and you are owning it. And I know your grandma is super proud of you. I'm proud of you coming from the spiritual community because
Thank you.
it's rare. And it's rare to hear you talk the way you talk. And it just is. I feel like you should be like 50 years old. Like I do not feel like you should be that young as you're
Only.
speaking. And it just goes where you're an old soul and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And I love that you just trust it. I love that you just embody everything that you are and you own it. And so I thank you for doing that. I really do.
Absolutely. Oh, no, thank you, Brooke. I really hope that's an inspiration for, your listeners and for everyone out there, at least, that they can also feel that way about themselves. You don't need to hide who you truly are. That's kind of where I've accepted myself, and I feel a lot happier as a result of that.
I think a lot of people need to hear that. I really do. I think a lot of people needed to hear what you have to say today.
It's awesome,
So
yeah.
thank
I
you.
hope I hope they are receptive to that. Absolutely.
It
Yeah,
will
that
be.
makes me happy. I hope that those people can definitely out there see the good and the benefit of it all, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of good out there, even despite all the evil, there's still just a lot of good-natured people out there. I hope that they're trusting in that, especially someone like me who I try to find those good-natured people. So
Yeah.
I think
Thank
if
you.
there's more people like that out there who also seek out other people who are trustworthy and have kind hearts and are just are pure in their energy. I think that's what we really should strive to be as humanity.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. And
Yes, I love that you had mentioned the golden rule, and I can see that you live by the golden rule and just do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and you're living it, and it's such a beautiful thing. And when people want to find you, there's so many. It feels like there's layers of things that you offer, whether it's something of medical advice that they may need from you to see what's happening in their bodies, and or the mediumship where they can connect with the loved ones. So. What's your favorite thing to do?
Oh wow, that's a really difficult one. I really enjoy doing the mediumship readings. I think that brings me a lot closer to the personalities and people that exist in the world and people that existed before I have. And that really kind of opens my eyes up to, I think, things that we really wouldn't have thought of before. Because, now that these people are not in the living anymore, their experiences are kind of lost with them. But the way that they share their experiences with me, it's almost like I can vicariously live throughout their lives as I was that person. So to speak. So I kind of feel a sense of gratification that I get to experience life outside of my own as being a vessel for not only just channeling energy and spirit, but also just experiencing what a human life outside of my own really was. And, taking that, putting that, putting on those other shoes, so to speak, putting on the other man's boots and living life in those shoes for a while is really interesting for me from that perspective. I can't imagine that, living my own life in my own shoes now as my own individual, because it feels like I've seen so much from other people that I've now, incorporated aspects of their lives and their personalities into my own. And that's kind of helped me develop too through readings, which is like I feel like, some of the people that I read, it's almost like the spirits that I'm channeling need to give me like the advice instead of me giving advice to the sitter, almost like I'm the one who learns more about what I'm reading to the person and the person that's sitting there that paid for the reading. It's almost like I got to pay them now because they brought this good advice to my doorstep. It's frustrating for me to do that, but it cannot be like any closer to the truth for me. It's so awesome to have spirit like that in my life and just
I love
constantly,
it.
even if I want them to help me or not, they will do it regardless, even if it was just in the middle of a random reading that I'm doing during the middle of the day, they'll give me some advice that's like, wow, that's something I should probably take home with me tonight too. Like I'm telling it to this person, but I really should just be like, that feels like it's more for me, honestly.
I love it. I love it. I
Right.
love
Oh
it.
my gosh. Thank you so much, Grayson, for
Oh, my pleasure, Brooke. Yeah, thank
sharing
you
your
guys so much.
story
Thank
and
you,
your
Brooke.
journey with us.
My
And
pleasure.
where can people book with you? Where can they find you?
Absolutely. Yes, you can text or you can text me. I guess my phone number would be the best way to contact me. I check that most frequently, 239-264-0791. I do have an email if people prefer to reach out to me that way. Greyson Medium, that is Greyson medium @gmail.com. You can shoot me just an email there, and you can also, book any Zoom readings and anything you'd like with me. Yeah. It's medical intuitive, Reiki, mediumship. Yeah.
Well, we know people will reach out after they hear your story, and we thank you
Absolutely.
so much for
My
your
pleasure.
time today and being on the podcast.
Such
And
an honor, you guys. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Mona, so much for
I'm
having me on the
honored.
me
podcast.
Honored.
too.
So honored to talk to you today, Grayson.
Pleasure. No, it's great talking
Awesome
to you
meeting
guys. So
you.
much of a pleasure. It really is. Such wonderful people. It really is being able to connect with you guys and being able to just get the word out there like that. And it's so good that you guys are having a podcast platform like that. So I'm glad that you are spreading the great word like that. It
Have to
makes me
spread the
happy too.
love.
That's right. Spread the love.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Have
Absolutely. And
to.
I'm so grateful for our audience to be able to hear who Grayson Green is and what a blessing you are. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
The
you.
pleasure's
Thank
all
you
mine,
so
guys. Thank
much.
you guys so much. My
And
pleasure.
we hope you guys tune in, and we'll see you all next week. And namaste. Y'all have a beautiful day.
Namaste.